It is Tuesday, like he said, for Saskatchewan Lotteries. Barney, Shynkaruk, Colson, Curtis, Harry is going to be joining us at the bottom of the hour for the remainder. Not much going on today. It's going to be a pretty slow and boring show. Said no one. It is jammed. We got Justin Dunk standing by. New Saskatchewan Roughriders quarterback, Tommy Stevens. About 3:30 on the program. Dave Thomas running down free agency after that. Hour 2, Arash Madani, clutch performer. Some Four Nations hockey news, some Hockey Canada news. Hour 3, Glenn Suter, more hockey news, and we'll recap what you missed. It's been busy, and we knew it would be. I think we knew everything that was, for the most part, that was going to happen, though. So I don't know about the surprise thing. But if you've been following along, it's SportsCage social media on Twitter or sportscage.com. You see what the Riders have done and what other teams in the CFL have been doing as well. Let's get to it. Western Pizza. All the Greek favorites you love, plus the pizza that's known around the world, Regina-style pizza. Visit your Western Pizza tonight. Let's get right out and join our man on the pre- and post-game show, Rider Radio, from 3 Down Nation, Justin Dunk, standing by. Justin, coming out of the gate, super generic. It's like that running play right up the gut, first play of the game. How's it for you today? Anything catch you off guard? Any surprises?
Nothing really caught me off guard. A lot of dotting of I's and crossing T's to your point. But, a couple signings that I just broke, on 3downnation.com. Former Riders defensive lineman Anthony Lanier has signed with the Toronto Argonauts. It's believed that Jason Shivers, who was with Lanier in Saskatchewan a couple years ago before he went to Edmonton, is going to be the defensive coordinator with Toronto, and he brings over Lanier, so there's a connection there. The other signing that I just broke that hadn't been reported anywhere at all was Sean Oakman, the towering defensive lineman going from the Edmonton Elks to the Montreal Alouettes. He had also had a little bit of time with Toronto Argonauts, won a Grey Cup at Mosaic Stadium actually in 2022 with the Double Blue. So those are the absolute latest signings, but everything else today, Barney, so far has literally just been putting signatures on paper or docu-signs, should I say.
I don't think it was when we talked last week, but there was, some people and then social media that they were thinking Kadeem Carey maybe not going back to the Argos. Did you think that was always kind of a done deal?
I thought it made sense to stay there. He had over 1,000 yards. The Argos were able to keep him healthy, treated him really well from a physical standpoint in terms of the treatment he was able to get from the team. And if you look around the league, Barney, there wasn't a glaring running back spot open, except for the Argos, although some people talked about Kevin Brown potentially taking over there, who started his career with the Edmonton Elks. But I always felt like Toronto was the best spot for Carey to re-sign.
We have Tommy Stevens coming up on the show at 3:30. Seems like a good guy. He's he was your insider today, I hear.
He was, man. He had some great stats about his short yardage success, and that's the main role that the Riders are bringing him in for. There's some people around the CFL that feel like he could develop as a passer and has some talent in terms of that deep arm strength. But you look at what he put out on social media, combined on second and third down from 2022 through 2024, 122 of 132, which is 92.4% in terms of quarterback sneaks. And then just third down alone, 60 of 62, 97% conversion rate. So a great value add for Corey Mace, Jeremy O'Day, and the Riders.
And I think there's probably a lot of people that were in the same boat as me that you start kind of going down the rabbit hole last week when you guys announced on 3 Down, Tommy Stevens. Okay, well, it's more about this guy. Like, he played Penn State, then went SEC to Mississippi State, threw for over 1,100 yards there. Like, the guy played quarterback in the best college conference in the world. He can do other things probably than just run.
Definitely. And it's not like he is just a short yardage quarterback. He's been pinned as that in this league, but I think there's still some upside there. And just like with Jake Maier, there is a familiar field because Mark Mueller spent time in Calgary with Tommy Stevens.
Yeah, no, those two will be familiar for sure. Riders also getting some help on the O-line today.
Philippe Gagnon, I really like this signing. He is a nasty, physical offensive lineman. You know how Corey Mace likes his defensive linemen to be physical and get after really his entire team. So I think Gagnon fits in with this. He's a guy that started 17 games last year for the Montreal Alouettes, who had the best record in the Canadian Football League. Did not win the Grey Cup, though. He won the Grey Cup a year before in 2023 with the Als. I really like how this came together for the Riders, and it gives them even more national depth in terms of the ratio.
I feel when I saw it, and I'm like, he's been playing in the league a long time. And then I started going through, right? Like his first year, he spent 1 year in Ottawa. But yeah, he's been in the league a long time. Almost like kind of like a last year when we signed Hardrick to an extent, a guy with a ton of experience, helping things out on the offensive line. Do you think that the salary cap raise and what happened last week, did that affect free agency at all this year, do you think?
I haven't heard about it affecting free agency at all because a lot of the guys had already agreed to deals, and it wasn't like they were going to go back on their word. The only deal so far that has been, let's say, reneged upon was Trey Roberson had agreed to terms to go from the Calgary Stampeders to the Ottawa Redblacks, but that is not going to happen. That deal has fallen apart, I guess is the best way to put it. But I don't believe that's because of the late salary cap increase. That said, a lot of teams, coaches, general managers, players, agents that I talk to around the league really wish that increase was known before the negotiating window opened. It would have been nice.
Yeah, it's like going on a holiday and you're going to a 2-star and realize you got a bunch of money. You could have went to the 5-star. Anything surprise you? Anybody surprise you that hasn't signed yet?
That's a good question. The top guys left out of our top 30 pending free agents, like guys that didn't re-sign with their teams that actually made it to the window at 3downnation.com would be Isaiah Cage, who is a tackle that has starting experience at left tackle. He started 24 games at left tackle the last 2 seasons for the Toronto Argonauts, by the way. That was 1 year in 2023 where the Argonauts were far and away the best team in the league, didn't win the Grey Cup. And then this year, the Argos won the Grey Cup. And, a couple of other ones stand out to me at the moment. The main one is Alexander Hollins. Yes, he had both his knees scoped. He's a receiver who was with the BC Lions, but now is a free agent. I think somebody's going to get an intriguing signing there if he can be healthy. There are people in the league that believe he's one of the best route runners in the league, can create separation, but he needs to hang on to the football. So we'll see where that shakes out with Hollins.
I was talking to the guys yesterday, talking to Maz and Dave off camera as well. And I was like, how does everything land with physicals? Guys signing, are most things pending a physical? Signing bonuses, are those guaranteed? What do you know there?
A lot of it depends on the player. Teams will ask for health reports, especially if it's a player coming from a new team. Let's use, Tommy Stevens, for example. Mark Mueller would know him, but they would usually, and I'm not saying they actually did in this case, but to take you behind the scenes, ask for the medical reports from the Calgary Stampeders. And if there was something that the Riders, let's say in this instance, wanted to check with Stevens by their own doctor, then they would bring him in, similar to what the Edmonton Elks are doing, holding off announcing officially some of these signings just to go over the physicals. But it's really a case-by-case basis.
Okay, and then the last question, we started with a generic one. We'll end with a generic one. Is there a winner in free agency so far?
I don't really like picking winners and losers because a couple of years ago when the Montreal Alouettes had the ownership issue and it was uncertain, I should say, and Gary Stern was out and a bunch of these players were leaving the team because of it. Gino Lewis, one of them. The Alouettes ended up winning the Grey Cup. So
Yeah.
I do think that the Edmonton Elks have done a great job with the roster remake there. That said, you have the Riders sort of on the other end of the spectrum, going with continuity, bringing in a couple pieces here and there, but having a roster that largely is going to be together for yet another season, which can benefit them. So there are some winners, but you're not necessarily going to win or lose a Grey Cup in free agency. It's about how your team comes together.
Okay, do you got a running total there at your house? How many days until like the first regular season kickoff? Like, because now we got to wait, right? Like, camp is still, what is it, 2-3 months away? I know Rider Nation's excited though.
As they should be. I really like the roster that Jeremy O'Day, Corey Mason, the coaching staff, and the football operations staff is putting together. No, to answer your question, I don't have, a countdown clock, because really in my world, the only thing that existed for the last week and a half was CFL Free Agency. So I'll turn my focus to this season, after this signing period ends.
Did you watch the Super Bowl?
Of course, man. The Eagles laid a beat down.
Jeez, wasn't that surprising a little bit?
I didn't necessarily think that it was surprising. I thought that was the way that Philly had to win the one-on-one matchups and really tackle Patrick Mahomes well. Like, I think you and I talked about it on the show. That was a real key to me. If Patrick Mahomes wasn't able to extend plays outside the pocket with his legs, I felt like the Eagles had a shot. And on the flip side, I felt like Jalen Hurts had to have at least a decent game throwing the football, and he did that, plus used his legs. So, I didn't see the Chiefs being blown out, but I always thought that the Eagles were at least going to be competitive.
Yeah, not one blitz, 6 sacks. It was a thing of beauty for anyone that bet on the Eagles. JD, busy day for you. Like you said, busy week. Thanks for making some time. And like I said, exciting day. Now we got 3 months to be excited for the start of things. Thanks, man.
Appreciate you having me on.
Right on. Justin Dunk, our pre- and post-game host, Rider Radio on 620 CKRM, and also from 3 Down Nation. We talked about it. You can go to the social media has been buzzing all day. Also, SportsCage.com on the Rider signings. What are we? We are about 10 minutes away from newly signed Saskatchewan Roughrider quarterback Tommy Stevens. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. It is the Sports Cage. We're streaming at sportscage.com, and we are on the home of the Riders, 620 CKRM. Some people already chiming in on the Prairie Land Rentals text line. Prairie Land Rentals since 1986. Big jobs, small jobs. You know what I was thinking? If you got to move some snow, like pile up some snow, be that good neighbor, get rid of some snow. Prairie Land Rentals, you can go rent like a skid steer or something. Moving equipment. You got power equipment. They got everything there since 1986 to deal with the owner. You can send in a text at 936-6262. What do you think about free agency so far? Let's go here. Well, we got to give a shout out Gary in Winnipeg. His predictions for the CFL West. This is from somebody that lives in Winnipeg. Not sure where he was born. Could have been born at the General, the Pasqua, or what was the other hospital called in Regina before they closed it?
I wasn't around then. I don't know.
Wascana? No. It's out by the Wascana golf course. It definitely wasn't the Wascana. I'm an idiot. Somebody will chime in, let me know. He thinks the Riders will be first, then the Lions, then the Bombers, then the Elks, then the Stampeders. Well, we know where Luke Mullender on Friday stands. He thinks the Riders are going to the ship. I don't know. I'm so curious on the Elks.
Plains Hospital?
Plains. Yes.
There we go.
Attaboy. Like the Riders there, obviously. Yeah, Lions will be good. We got a bounce back year from the Lions. I told you he was going to be co-hosting with me today. Let's bring him on. Chris Harris.
Count of 3
Is with me. Hey, How's it going? How's it going up there?
It's in progress. It's cold. God damn, is it cold?
No doubt. Like, I was reading that line about Prairie Land rentals. It's like you need space heaters. See, my daughter can't figure out that when the wind's blowing, the house is always cold. And then the wife's like, "Oh, you turn the furnace up." Like, it says it's at 72. What do you want it at? Turn it up then. It's cold outside. When it's cold outside, things are colder. How about we don't walk around in shorts and tank tops? Put on a hoodie, pair of sweatpants. Do that. Some socks. Thanks, Trevor. Plains Hospital. Another one, Plains Hospital. We even got a picture on the Plains Hospital. Yeah. So free agency today, Harry, and we got new quarterback Tommy Stevens coming on at any moment here from the Riders. Because you were on last week. We were talking about it so much. It's there's not a lot of surprises anymore. It's like the gender reveal that everybody already knows. It's like a surprise. No. I don't know if I'd change it though.
I don't know. I find it funny because there's no other league. There's when you have NHL trade deadline or free agency stuff, you hear a few things. You hear dribs and drabs in the summer, like, oh, this guy's reported to go there. But when I went through 3 Down Nation's top 30, like, all those guys, like, oh, reportedly signed. I'm like, this is a lot of reportedly. Like, why even have the deadline be on the 11th then? Like, I don't get it. If these guys are agreeing to back channel deals, then what's the big hullabaloo on having a set date? And then
if you move it, then they're just gonna have the sneaky, the shady, whatever you want to call it, is just earlier. So
yeah, doesn't make any sense. I don't get why there's a deadline in place. I get it. It's probably for the clerical staff of the league office, so they give it a bit of a break. But I don't know. The deluge of paperwork can't be that much that it's going to be overwhelming. That it couldn't just be right after the Grey Cup. You sign whatever you want. God, you have in the NFL, you've got coaches signing the day after the Super Bowl. You know, they don't have a moratorium for moves there, where it's like, no, you can't start until March 15th. Even though everybody knows where everybody's going. So, I mean, the Kellen Moore, they were talking about it during the broadcast. He's going to be the head coach of the Saints. It's a done deal. Yeah. Like, he's coaching in the damn Super Bowl.
I know.
And he's not going to be with that team tomorrow.
That one's always been weird. Because it's...
And then the other thing too, a few weeks ago with Brady... They gave him crap, like the critics of him broadcasting, because when he did the Lions game, he didn't want to talk about Glenn and Ben, the other coordinator, Ben Johnson, he'd interviewed for the Raiders job, but then he took another job. He went to Chicago instead. So it's funny that all this speculation, these guys know where these guys are going, but yet nope. Oh, we can't say anything about it. Like, it's the worst kept secrets, these signings.
Yeah, the football coaching one in the NFL is like, okay, hold on. Hey, we're having our team meeting. Guys, I'm gonna have to jump out for like 45 minutes, and then I'll be right back.
Yeah, I don't even understand how that works. Like, you are coaching in the Super Bowl, and everybody in the stadium knows you are taking a new job tomorrow.
Hey, where did you go yesterday? Nowhere. Yeah, it's like super shady on that front.
Kellen, about this expense report from this trip to New Orleans, what was that for? I was doing location scouting for Super Bowl in case we got there. Like, hey, it's just horrible.
Safety. Okay, let's take a quick one, and then we're gonna have Tommy Stevens, new Saskatchewan Rough Rider quarterback, joining us here on the Sports Cage. We are streaming. You'll be able to see him at sportscage.com. Welcome back, Sports Cage, for Saskatchewan Lotteries on this Tuesday. Thanks to everyone who's texting in on the Prairie Land Rentals text line. Western Pizza guest hotline. Let's get out there right now. Newly signed Saskatchewan Roughrider quarterback Tommy Stevens. It's Tommy Tuesday here on the Sports Cage. Deal is done. We talked about it last Tuesday as well. Tommy, congratulations. What does it feel like to be a Saskatchewan Roughrider, and why did you choose Sasky?
Well, it feels great. I couldn't be more thankful for the organization, believing in me, Coach Mace, and obviously my relationship with Coach Mueller. Just fired up, man. I've kind of raved to people around me about Sask, and I believe Jake would have said something about Mosaic being the mecca of our league, and I couldn't agree more. We loved playing in Mosaic, and obviously now we can get a little bit more used to it. So as far as the getting into choosing it, I think it sold itself. I mean, my relationship with both those guys, Mueller and Jake. I mean, I spent a lot of time with Jake in Calgary, and people have raved about Mace. I never got to meet him, but obviously he spent a lot of time in Calgary as well. So it was all about opportunity for me, and I'm excited, man. Couldn't be more excited to be with the Green guys.
Curtis is probably going to run the clip right now of you torching the Riders on one of your runs, but you're coming in here. Trevor Harris, the elder statesman, you got married. You talked about the relationship there as well. The team, right? Like last year was Mace, Mueller, their first year. Everyone's talking in Sask. Like now we got the runway. We got a year under our belts, and things obviously we got to be a bit homerish, but things are looking like really bright here, team wise.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was sitting at the table the other day, and I can't remember who it was. Somebody posted like a projected depth chart, right? And I'm just sitting here looking at it. I'm like, man, this is a good football team. So, we've got high expectations, but obviously nothing's going to be given to us. So it's all about getting to work, building continuity within each other, and just taking it 1 week at a time.
Tommy, one of the things that's overlooked in free agency, there's two sides to the coin. As much as a player might want to go somewhere, that team is expressing an interest in wanting you as part of their organization. So what conversations have you had so far with either Coach Mace or Jeremy O'Day in terms of what they see in you and what they want out of you in bringing you to this organization?
Yeah, no, I know Mace. I've had conversations with him, and he was very fired up whenever we spoke. But as far as like role and talking about like what's to come for me, I mean, we haven't really spoken specifics of that, but it seems to me, at least in our short conversations, that Mace is a guy that guys love playing for. Obviously, I mean, it kind of speaks for itself with the way that the guys play for him, and obviously the immediate success of the team with him becoming the head coach. So. Yeah, man, it's very exciting to be a part of. I'm glad that it was able to work out, and I've felt like a part of me has wanted to be here since I got in the CFL. So very, very excited to be here.
Look, you're just buttering everybody up. Everybody in Sask is gonna love Tommy. New Rider quarterback Tommy Stevens is joining us on the Western Pizza guest hotline. You're 6'4", 245. Like you're a big guy. What would you be at right now?
As far as weight?
Yeah.
Yeah, about that. That's usually what I sit at. It's funny. It was always hard for me to gain weight when I was little, right? And so now being able to I guess fluctuate between anything in like the 255, 240 range, I mean, really isn't that hard for me, luckily, right? And so being able to have good genetics has helped. I feel like all the men in my family look like WWE wrestlers. So, I'm put it to you like this. I'm still little Tommy in my household. My dad is a large human. So,
what's your dad? What would be your dad at? What would he be?
My dad's a little bit shorter than me. He's about 6'3", but he's every bit of probably 250, and he's a 500-pound bencher. Put it to you like that.
Jeez.
So my dad's a large human. There's a lot of defensive guys in my family. My little brother plays defensive end at Virginia Tech. He's a very large human himself. So yeah, it's almost like I've been competing just to stay at the dinner table with these guys, right?
Nice.
So.
Nice. You play quarterback your whole life as a kid, And at what age do you hit that growth spurt?
So I actually didn't play quarterback until really high school. That was really where I guess I started playing that. But like we ran Navy's offense in high school, so I still had over 100 carries in like the 2 years that I started. Both years I probably ran the ball for, I don't know, 250 times, I'd say, in high school, just guessing. And just being able to, I guess, learn over the years and playing different positions, doing different things. I give a lot of credit to my dad and my uncles. They coached me at a very early age and were able to, kind of help me develop into, being good at these kind of things. Playing different sports is another thing that helped me a bunch, and, gaining different perspective, being around different guys, learning from different people. And it's all been helpful for my development.
Did you model yourself after anyone? High school into college, and then maybe even to your early years as pro?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I modeled my game after anybody. I remember really enjoying watching Marcus Mariota play when I was in high school, and I was actually able to meet Marcus before my junior year of high school at the Manning Passing Academy. Being a guy from Indianapolis, it's there's two things: you have to love basketball, and you have to love Peyton Manning. There's no in between. And so, being a camper, like I said, my junior year in high school at the Manning Passing Academy, I was able to meet Marcus, and my going into my senior year of college, I was actually there as a counselor, and I was able to meet Peyton, and man, it was awesome for me. And he kind of walked up. I hadn't talked to him yet. He walked up, and we had like a social event on the first night, and he walked up, put his arm around me at the bar, and he's like, "Hey, Tommy, what are we drinking?" And it's just like, man, I mean, I was like, is this really happening right now? So yeah, man, it's I love the Mannings, but I do love just talking about guys that play right now. I love the way Joe Burrow plays. I love, and it's kind of weird because I know Joe personally. I mean, he's from Ohio. I'm from Indiana. We're the same age. We went to a lot of the same camps. But what he's doing, his development as a passer has been awesome. I've never met Josh Allen, but you can kind of see, I guess, similarities between us, body size wise, the way that he runs the ball. It kind of feels weird for me saying, having a favorite player in the NFL, because these guys are all about the same age as me, and I got a bunch of buddies that play in the league. But I love the way Josh plays, man. It's awesome to watch, and they've got a good thing going there in Buffalo.
Gonna give you free reign to pump your tires a little bit, pump your own tires a little bit. But what do you feel like? And what do you bring to the table in terms of your strengths as a quarterback? And then on the other side of the coin, where do you feel like you've got areas that you need to grow or improve?
Yeah, I mean, I think versatility is obviously, a thing that people know a lot about me, I guess. There's a lot of, I guess, people out there don't think I can throw the ball, and just go watch the college tape, man. Like I haven't played a lot of quarterback in this league. I get it. I got no starts. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm some prolific passer. By any means.
Mississippi State,
not my game.
Mississippi State, 1,155 yards in 2019. That's in the SEC. That's not in some Bush League conference.
Exactly. And so it's, there's a lot, and a lot of that, I mean, I don't really want to sit here and talk about myself too much. I spent a lot of time. I separated my throwing shoulder in our first home game, so our second game of the year, and spent a lot of time battling back from that. So didn't exactly have the year that I thought that I was capable of having. But even in a utility role at Penn State, I was able to do a lot of cool things with those guys on a very talented team with, guys like Saquon Barkley, Mike Gesicki, Trace McSorley, Miles Sanders. There's a lot of really good football players. And, whenever I'd come on the field, somebody would have to come off. Right. And so that was the toughest thing to do as far as like getting a guy like me involved. And, we were able to kind of create that, that role that Taysom Hill ended up making famous. So, it was really cool. So I think that obviously I'm going to need to continue to develop as a passer. I mean, that's no, mystery, I guess. But to say that I can't throw the ball is always been a little I'm like, people just start watching. They don't know yet. Right. And so it's kind of the thing that I'm excited the most about is to, I guess, prove some people right that do believe in me as a passer, and then add that to the things that I've been able to do on the ground.
Yeah, and people got to remember, too, like your NFL stops, right? Like New Orleans, Carolina, the Giants, which they haven't had a great record with quarterbacks in the last little bit. And, before you come up here. Now you're from Indy, so are you a massive Colts fan?
I was back in the day, and I think a lot of my the way that I supported the Colts kind of went out the window with how they did Peyton Manning. I mean, you've got a guy that means this much to the city, and you cut him. You don't trade him. You just cut him. And it is, however many years it's been, it still doesn't sit right with me. So,
and then
it's
the Andrew
hard
Luck
now.
thing was weird there too, right? Where he
Wasn't it?
packs it in.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really, really strange. It's hard now to, I guess, have any kind of allegiance towards any of the teams, just because I've got a lot of buddies that are around the league everywhere. And but I kind of started going in about the Bills. If I have any kind of alliance or any team that I guess that I'm rooting for, I think it's them. It's I love the way that Josh plays. I've got a relationship with Joe Brady. He spent some time with us at Penn State, so just being able to root for those guys, I guess, has been nice over the last couple of years. But hopefully they can get over the hump soon.
Okay, before I let you go, I got to ask you. You said Indy, big basketball country. I know Harry and I here. One of our favorite sports movies ever is Hoosiers. Like,
Yeah.
is that a staple? Anybody in Indy?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Hickory, Gene Hackman. What a flick.
Unfortunately, I've never actually been able to. I've drove by it, but I've never actually been in the gym. I don't even know if it's still there or not. I think that they may have gotten rid of it, which would be ridiculous to at least use it as a some sort of museum, right? But I don't know that for sure. I'd have to fact check it. But I've drove by it. But I've been inside Butler's place, so that's pretty cool.
Nice. Everybody wanted to be Jimmy Chitwood, right? When they got that ball. They wanted, yeah. Tommy, congratulations. We can't wait to have you here in Rider Nation. You seem like an absolute beauty. Anytime, doors always open. Take care, and we'll see you at camp.
Awesome, guys. Can't wait myself. Appreciate it.
Right on. There is Tommy Stevens, new Saskatchewan Rough Rider quarterback. Hey, Harry, he can sling the ball. Like you play at Mississippi State in the SEC, 1,155 yards. Like, yeah, no, the guy can throw the ball too, and he's a big dude. Like
He's a big fella.
6'4", 245. He's got that Josh Allen kind of.
Yep. And he's young. He's still got room to grow and develop, and it's not like he's 31 or 33 he's still got youth on his side.
No, I like it. He seems like a really good dude. Just for social media posts and everything. I think he's going to be a fan favorite here in Rider Nation. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, voice of the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. I told you it was a busy show. Dave Thomas is going to join us. We are streaming the Sports Cage at sportscage.com. Jam-packed Sports Cage today. If you're just tuning in, what have you missed? You missed Justin Dunk talking about free agency that opened up today, but kind of look on my piece of paper. That's the surprises that came out. If you're watching the stream, it's blank. We kind of knew everything that was going to happen. And then Tommy Stevens. You can go back and listen to that. We're going to have to rerun Tommy Stevens later in the show for sure. That was a good interview. He's going to be a fan favorite here, isn't he, Harry?
I can definitely see he's got that kind of that Southern personality that people are definitely going to gravitate to.
Oh yeah. The one QB that I was thinking, and I'm like, well, he would have been in high school, and he was really good in college ball. Tim Tebow, and I know Tebow's knock was he couldn't really throw it, but he could. Like he was really good at Florida. And then he was just a tank. He was a big guy, like 6'4", 245. Trying to tackle that, if you're a small DB, like that's got broken collarbone, separated shoulder written all over it.
You can see
why Eric Lindros.
You can see why he completed 97% of his third down conversions.
Yeah, but he's not just like he said, he's not just a third down guy. Like people got to realize he can sling it. He had shoulder issues last year going into camp. Western Pizza hotline is buzzing today, so grab some Western Pizza, Greek favorites you love, or the pizza. It is free agency day. We kind of give this guy a break in the off season, but I wanted to bring him on today. It's voice of the Riders, Dave Thomas joining us. You probably caught the Tommy Stevens interview, did you? Or did you just rush downstairs into your home studio?
No, I was listening. I'm a big fan of Tommy Stevens. I've seen what he was been able to do at college and just the athleticism that he has shown, because even in his time in the NFL, like they needed to get him on the field. So they were trying to, at the NFL level, convert him into a tight end. So that speaks to me volumes that when an NFL team is willing to convert your position just to allow you to play for them, I think that that's a pretty good sign.
I thought you were going to say you're a big fan of the SportsCage and you never miss it. So, of course, you listen to the Tommy Stevens interview. But, okay, we went that way. I asked Justin Dunk this, and Harry and I were just joking about it. Really no surprises today. Any surprises for you, Dave, whether it's the Riders or anywhere across the league?
You know, today has felt like Christmas Day when I was a kid back in Weyburn, because, you know, your brothers and siblings, you'd open all the gifts beforehand, so you knew what you were getting, right? And then mom and dad on Christmas Day, for whatever reason, decide to sleep in, so you have to wait to open those presents, even though you still know what you're going to get all day long. You're waiting just to see if maybe somehow Santa snuck something into your stocking to see what would happen. And really, the expected has happened. I'm surprised that Edmonton hasn't made a huge splash, because reportedly they're signing 12 guys. Like, that is a full offensive or defensive unit. So they're going to wait and do the testing for medical reasons. I get that. I understand that. But really, I was just kind of waiting to see, like, there's some names that are still on the board that I'm intrigued by, like Anthony Lanier. You heard Justin Dunk break it earlier from 3 Down Nation talking about Anthony Lanier is going to go ahead and make his way towards Toronto. Miles Brown is still out there, of course. He had an impact last year with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Christian Albright also was a name. So those are intriguing. Derek Moncrief, he's going to extend his career. He's going to make the move from Edmonton to Calgary next season, as that was announced a little bit earlier today. So not huge, big name moves that are jumping off the page, but still some substantial moves that are being made across the league.
Yeah. Did you think that Carey would stay in Toronto?
I didn't see an avenue for him to go really anywhere else. I thought that prior to Ottawa making their move with William Stanback, that maybe Kadeem Carey would make his way towards the nation capital. But again, he is such a good fit for Toronto. I couldn't fathom that the Argos would delay in extending his contract. So I don't know if that was a byproduct of him or the team, but he had an outstanding season and really, I thought, set the tone for the Argos.
You can never have too many offensive linemen, as we found out last year. Philippe Gagnon is making his way to Saskatchewan from the Montreal Alouettes. Like I said with Dunk, that's a guy, like, I feel he's been in the league, Dave, since I was in high school.
Well, he was a former number 2 overall pick in the draft, right? So he has played some seasons. He's won a Grey Cup with the Montreal Alouettes. What intrigues me is that he has been the starter in Montreal at the right guard position. So right tackle, we know, will be eaten up by Jamarcus Hardrick, again, presuming that he is A-OK. And from what I heard last year, he actually may have been available to play should the Riders have made it to the Grey Cup. So there's the right side of the offensive line, but who happened to play in the right guard? Well, just the outstanding offensive lineman from the West in Logan Furland. So does that mean that he bumps to center, where he did quite a bit last year when Peter Godber was injured? And then what happens over on the left side? Because the left tackle, I think, is Trayvon Tate, who, of course, joined the Riders midseason last year. And then the left guard, there was Noah Zare, there's Zach Fry, there's Jacob Brammer. All are in the mix. So, yeah, there's tons of depth and quality depth, too.
Do you think that the salary cap last week, and now all these teams basically had an extra 400G-ish to play with, did you think that played in anywhere?
Well, that's a real interesting one by the accounts that I've read, and I haven't had firsthand knowledge. I haven't been able to ask the question straight off the hop. When did we know that the salary cap was going to rise? Because according to some, they say, well, no, the players found out the actual day that it was announced, 3 days into the negotiation window, and that's when the teams were informed of it as well. That's what some would have you believe. Again, I can't substantiate that at all. But Zach Collaros, again, he's kind of been the champion of the players, right, from time to time, and he came out and he said, this isn't right. Like, we've got guys that are signing contracts that were operating under a different salary cap. And so, again, we haven't heard much about it from the players that were signing. And as you heard Dustin Dunk, because again, I never miss a moment of the SportsCage. I heard Justin saying that he hasn't heard of any deals falling through. So I guess it was curious, the timing. Will there be effects and ramifications? I'm not sure. But one of the things that I have been led to believe is that the CFLPA needed to sign off on the salary cap because it's part of the revenue sharing model, right? And so the Players Association had different avenues that they could allocate those funds, from the pension to medical to whatever, and they chose to go expanding the salary cap. So that's maybe one point for the delay as well. So again, it's going to be interesting when we hear what the actual story is after the story.
So now that the dust is settled and for all intents and purposes, things are done and we're ready for camp to start in a few months, what do you think? Like, expectations are already high, but what is the one burning question that you've got now, knowing what you know about what's going to happen going into the next year, as to cautioning people about, look, we still have this question that needs to be answered about this team. What is it?
That's a great question. And the ones that I have that jump off the page a little bit is what's the ratio going to look like? Are the Riders going to start 2 Canadians or 2 national players in the secondary in Campbell and Lacombo? Are they both going to get the opportunity to start? Because that can really be a ratio changer, but you do need to have depth at that position. So the Riders have re-signed Kosi Onyeka as well. They've got Jaden Dalkey hanging in the wings, and Jackson Ford, who was injured for much of last year. So that ratio in the secondary is going to be an interesting question, because that could allow you to start 3 American players at the linebacking core. The Riders seem to have a wealth of riches along the defensive line, and there's going to be some difficult decisions that have to be made there. And then the receiving core, come back healthy with Sean Bain Jr. You put him in. Of course, you've got Del Duncan Busby with another year under his belt. And what are you going to do in the backfield? Now, I'm not suggesting for a minute that A.J. Ouellette won't be the opening day running back, but you've also got Raquel Armstead under contract. You found a way to get them both on the roster last year. Can the Riders be creative and find a way to do that again this year?
How would that creativity go down if we were starting tomorrow?
If you were starting tomorrow, it would probably be a situation where you've got the 3 receivers that are Canadian starters, right?
Yeah.
So you've got Emelis, you've got Kean Schaefer-Baker, and then you've got Del Duncan Busby or Mitch Picton. You pick the order that you put the 3 Canadians on, then Sean Bain Jr. and Keyshawn Johnson probably round out your 5 receivers. And then along the offensive line, you're probably starting at least a pair of Canadians in Logan Furland, and then one of Zach Fry, Noah Zaire at the left guard spot, probably. And then, of course, the right guard spot. So maybe it's a 3rd Canadian along that offensive line with Philippe Gagnon, again, if he's going to fit in there. So, again, it's great to have these options. And Jeremy O'Day, in my mind, has done a masterful job of giving the coaching staff the tools. And now they just got to go ahead and build the championship, if you know what I mean.
I think you're going to get a chance to chat with him tomorrow, and then Maz will have that on the SportsCage. Shea Patterson to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. What did you think about that one?
You know, I kind of thought that there was 3 landing sites for Shea Patterson, because I thought he had done enough last year to prove that he was worth the investment in trying to continue to develop him as a quarterback. So Winnipeg was one. I wonder what Calgary was going to do behind Vernon Adams Jr., just because, right? And then the other guy was out in BC. I didn't know what was going to happen with Nathan Rourke and what route the BC Lions were going to go as far as a backup quarterback went. Now, the Lions, of course, went with Jeremiah Masoli. The Stamps are very happy with PJ Walker, who they signed late in the year, and they chose not to play him, not to throw him into the fire. So they're very high on him. So Winnipeg seems to be a very appropriate landing spot, as Ottawa now all of a sudden has got kind of like a handful of quarterbacks in their realm, and Toronto shored things up with Nick Arbuckle and, of course, Chad Kelly. So I think that's the right landing spot for Shea Patterson. Was it where I maybe anticipated him going? Not exactly, but again, he's well worth and is well deserving of the opportunity.
On the Prairie Land Rentals text line, I'll throw this one out here. Ron and Deb, they're in Costa Rica. They wanted us to talk about the NFL halftime show again today. We're not going to. Sean McEwen would be a nice addition on the line after Godber and maybe Skeever. What do you think there?
Well, again, that's a depth piece for sure. Like, he's a great player. He's played Canadian college football. That's where he grew up. That's where he started to develop as a player. So there's no it's not bad if you sign him, right? Again, it's the dollars and cents. What's he willing to do? Of course, Ryan Sevier came in, got dinged up when, again, was the best fifth. What did Luke call him? Luke Mullender referred to him as the fifth best offensive lineman in the league, right? When it came to being number 5 on a depth chart. So again, never say never.
I love talking to passionate Luke on Fridays. All right, Dave. Well, good work. Thanks so much. That is voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who we found out used to unwrap his presents before Christmas. He once got an Army Pete from the Weyburn McLeods in True Value, and he opened it up before Christmas. Dave, thanks so much.
Hey, no problem. I got to run and check out my favorite show. It's on YouTube right now and at sportscage.com.
That's it. We are streaming at sportscage.com. Thanks, Dave. Harry, I don't, the offensive line gives me, I have never cared about even when I was like hardcore Patriots fan, I never really cared about an offensive line more than this year after what happened last year.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're gun shy now, and it's like everything we need to do to prevent the issues that we had last year, let's make sure that the Riders are doing that and take every precaution possible to protect themselves.
You learn so much from the Prairie Land Rentals text line at 936-6262. Gary in Winnipeg, I feel like this guy would be a good guy to drink with. He says, do you know, and this, you might have to look this up, Colson, this could be erroneous information here. Do you know that part of Hoosiers, which we talked to Tommy Stevens about, big basketball movie based on Hickory, Indiana, was shot in the old Winnipeg Arena?
Let's fact check that.
I think so. We got Arash Madani coming up after 4:00. We're going to go back into the Super Bowl along with CFL Free Agency, and Harry and I are going to have fun about Canada and Canadian hockey on the eve of the Four Nations face-off. SportsCage. We are streaming. If you want to watch it, at sportscage.com. And if not, you catch it on the radio, the home of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, 620 CKRM. Welcome back. SportsCage. We are having streaming issues, I understand, if you go to sportscage.com. So just go directly to YouTube, or Twitter or X is also a way that you can pick it up. Okay, so before the break, if you weren't paying attention, that first hour was jam-packed. We're going to rerun Tommy Stevens in hour 3, new Rider quarterback, great interview. And we're probably going to rerun Justin Dunk from 3 Down Nation from hour 1 and hour 3 as well. Okay, so we talked to Tommy Stevens, who's from Indianapolis, Indiana. And we talked about, at the end, Hoosiers, the basketball movie. Anyone that knows sports movies that was born in the 60s, 70s, 80s, I don't know, you got to know this movie. Like, it's Gene Hackman. Probably his best performance. There's a lot of them. So we talked to him about it, and then it was Gary in Winnipeg who... Gary, you lied. You're a big liar is what you
Erroneous.
We fact-checked from what we have, and that is the internet. Unless you have pictures, Gary, stashed somewhere of part of Hoosiers being filmed in the Winnipeg Arena, we found that the entire movie, or Colson, what was it?
Yeah, the entire thing was filmed in Indiana, all across the state. Like, this is from IMDb and several other searches. Like, there is no record of the old Winnipeg Arena being related to the film.
And that big Queen picture would be in, like, I don't know. I'm gonna have to watch that movie now, possibly tonight. Fast forward to the part where they play in the finals in the big stadium and be like, that's definitely not the Winnipeg Arena. That's the house that Dale Howardchuk built. So Gary, we need pictures if you want to stand on that claim. Still a lot more to come. SJHL report day Tuesday. Benny Walchuk later this hour. But let's go out and talk to if he survived the Super Bowl.
The All New Sports Cage and Coast to Coast with Arash Madani is brought to you by Smart Investing Solutions. Be smart with your money. Call Brian Golly at Smart Investing Solutions, 546-2533.
What does he look like? There he is. He made it back.
Looks
from
rested.
New Orleans.
By the way, Hoosiers is one of my favorite movies ever. Like, there's
Because we
so
all grew
many
up in the
great-
same thing. We all, I can tell that.
One big pot of gumbo.
And none of that was filmed in Winnipeg. Like the Hinkle Fieldhouse is where Butler University plays. That's where that last scene when they go to the state championships. But I thought one of my favorite scenes in any movie is when they get there. They finally get to state, this little high school, and the first thing Gene Hackman does is he pulls out the tape measure. Yep, 10 feet to the rim. And they bring out the tape measure. Yep, 15 feet to the free throw line, just the way we have it at Hickory. Just because the lights are brighter and the seats are bigger, it's still the same game. And I think that's a great kind of message there.
That is good. If I ever get to coach in a state championship, I will use that one. It's based on the 1954 Indiana State champs Milan High School. I didn't know that. It inspired the show. Harry is a movie savant. Like, you probably know stuff from that movie, Harry. That the one that stands out for me in that show is when I can't remember the player's name, when his dad shows up to coach, and the dad's a bit of a, if you're not watching the stream, I made the drinky. His dad has a bit of a problem. Then he shows up to coach, and then Gene Hackman goes to his house way out in the woods and gives him the what for, because he falls. He's on the wagon or off the wagon again. But yeah, that was.
But don't forget, then Gene Hackman, playing the role of head coach, gets himself thrown out of the game so the assistant can run it.
What's his
And
name?
Late in the game, they're going to run the picket fence. And what was his line? Don't get caught watching the paint dry.
Yes, Arash. Oh, and then the other good part was when Jimmy comes into the gym when they're out trying to oust when they're trying to oust the coach, and he's like, "I'm ready to play ball, but the coach stays."
Yeah.
And then that one guy that plays the guy that plays the villain in all the movies, that's Murmy. Oh man. Okay. All right. That's it. That's the sports cage for today. So no, how was it? We all watched it. I bet on it. Lots of people. Domination by the Eagles.
I spoke with somebody who runs the Canadian division of a major sports book yesterday, and the books cleaned up. Nobody was betting under on Mahomes props. Nobody was betting unders on Kansas City props. They just had a field day, the books. I tell you guys, I walked into the stadium and I'm like, the first thing that struck me, I'm like, oh man, this is an Eagles home game. And the crowd noise was a factor off the jump, especially third down. And KC just never got into a rhythm. Like that opening series, Mahomes misfires to Kelsey. Kelsey kind of goes behind himself, goes down, leaves his oblique kind of exposed. He gets popped. He wasn't the same throughout. The only other time I've seen Kansas City that disheveled was when they lost to the Buccaneers 4 years ago in the Super Bowl, when that Tampa defense absolutely crushed them. KC was just never in that game, were they?
No.
So a couple things, we talked about it yesterday. is, and then call me if I'm wrong or you don't think, I feel that Philly did the Chiefs as the Chiefs do to other teams. And that was Mahomes, nothing there, seeing a lane, running, stepping up into the pocket and running. And then the other thing was Hurts would look not there. And then if he didn't run, he'd just do that little dump off into the flats, into whatever, which is what frustrates the living heck out of anyone who doesn't like the Kansas City Chiefs. So, and then the other thing, Arash, which I could not believe, and then I think I heard a stat today or yesterday that the Chiefs have been down 10-0 in like all the Super Bowls or something weird. So it was there. But coming out of halftime, where we even as a hater of the Chiefs, I was like, you got Reed and Spagnuolo. They didn't do anything. What did they talk about at half? What was the game plan coming out of half? Run the ball? Nope, none of that.
Yeah, it's wild, guys. The reputation Kansas City has, and like they've earned it, because it's 17-0 with like 4 minutes to go in the half. Mahomes gets the ball back, and I'm saying to myself, okay, 26 minutes. This has been a bloodbath. But I'm like, 17, they get a touchdown here before the half. They get the ball coming out of the break. We've seen this script before. This could very quickly become a one-score game. And then the pick to Zach Bond inside the 20, coming off a pick six. You're saying to yourself, by the way, great job, Curtis. That was the backbreaker.
He missed the previous two cues.
Yeah, there you go. It wasn't the pick six, but like right there in that spot, and suddenly 17 becomes 24, and the teams are coming off, and I'm looking up at the scoreboard, and I'm like, Philly's got 24 points, and Kansas City has 23 yards of offense. 3 rushing yards at the half. The other thing Philly did is what Casey does to everybody, is that Philly made Kansas City one-dimensional. We saw no running game to speak of. And when that happens and you're getting pressure with 4, forget about it.
It also seems like everybody and their dog is trying to find a reason as to why Kansas City played the way they did, or particularly Mahomes. But can he just have an off night? Like I've seen a few things where like, oh wait, he hit his head early on the turf, so maybe he wasn't the same after that. And couldn't he have just had an off day? Like, he's not a robot.
I don't blame Mahomes for this. I really don't. This has been a patchwork Kansas City offensive line for much of the season. Their left tackle, Joe Thuney, is an interior lineman who they put out there on an island. If you're watching on the stream, Mahomes was running for his life from the beginning of the game. And the thing is, Philly didn't blitz. Like, there were 42 dropbacks that Mahomes had in the game. Philly got pressure on 50% of those snaps, and not once did they bring an extra guy. So when you're getting pressure with 4, that allows your defense in the back end to completely do their thing. And so, Mahomes, I think I saw something like his average time in the pocket pre-sack was like 2.3 seconds. He barely got his feet set and he's under siege. If you're watching on the stream, what more can he do in these spots? And so, again, you're looking downfield, 7 guys have dropped back. There isn't much there. Thuney was a disaster at left tackle. The middle of that offensive line got exposed because they moved Thuney over. There's an expression in sports that if you want to correct a mistake by making another mistake, you're actually making 2 mistakes. Like the decision to move Thuney to left tackle not only was the mistake because he's not a left tackle, but then suddenly the middle of that offensive line becomes a problem too. And so, as you can see, pressure was coming from the interior, pressure was coming off the edge, and it was all coming from the 4 guys up front. What a time for Josh Sweat, by the way, to go into free agency. I thought he was the best player on the football field on Sunday.
There was a time where I thought he could get MVP.
Me too. And then Hurts had the deep ball to Devontae Smith, and he ran and broke his own rushing record. I'm like, okay. Like everything else, it's a quarterback award, right?
That's Keith's boy. Daniel, there was times, only a slim majority will get that one, Harry. There was times that Patrick Mahomes and the interceptions and how he was running around there that Curtis was showing, like it reminded me, like, are we watching Daniel Jones of the Giants in a Kansas City jersey here? Like it was so baffling. Now the other thing, Arash, I feel, so this would be very hard to do. I get it. But you sack him 6 times, 16 pressures, and you do it without blitzing. Yeah. Now, isn't the cheat sheet out there for Harbaugh in San Diego or whoever and say, listen, you sign whoever statistically nerd it down to Moneyball of NFL who can rush the QB with only 4 guys and put all your eggs there and try and beat. And like, I feel like that's a cheat code. I know it's not that easy. It's not a video game.
So there's a couple things with that. When you think about why Philly won, it goes back to 2 years ago when KC beat them in the Super Bowl. Because after that game, Howie Roseman, their GM, said enough.
Yep.
We're getting rid of the guys up front who are long in the tooth. Fletcher Cox retired after last year. They kept one guy around who's the heart and soul of their team, Brandon Graham. But outside of that, Jalen Carter, first-round pick. Nolan Smith, first-round pick. Quinyon Mitchell, first-round pick. Cooper DeJean, who had the pick 6, second-round pick. They went and got Zach Bond in free agency. But they invested 2 years' worth of draft capital with absolute race cars up front on their defensive line. That's tough to do. The other thing they did, guys, and this is even more difficult to do, is they invested in offensive linemen when they actually had a really good offensive line. What do I mean by that? Well, they have the best offensive line in football right now. But 3 years ago, in the second round, they draft Cam Jurgens out of Nebraska. They already have Jason Kelsey. They already have Lane Johnson. They already have Jordan Mailata. They already have Landon Dickerson. What are you doing wasting, I'm putting that in air quotes, a second-round pick on Cam Jurgens? Well, for 2 or 3 years, Cam Jurgens learns under Jeff Stoutland, the best offensive line coach in football. Even though he's a center, he moves over to guard, so he's able to provide some depth in case somebody gets injured. Plus, he gets mentored and tutored by Jason Kelsey. They didn't get enamored with the receiver who runs really fast. They didn't get enamored with the corner who's putting up all the measurables. They went and invested at the point of attack in the draft and hit on their picks. Good luck finding coaches who don't have job security doing that. And Philly nailed every single one of their picks, and that's why they won.
Let's move to the Blue Jays. Just kidding. Let's move to the CFL CFL Free Agency. Sorry, Blue Jay fans. We got lots of time to talk about you guys. Any winners and losers so
by the
far?
Way, pitchers and catchers report I think tomorrow, which is nuts.
Today, I think. Yeah.
It's then spring training starts, and if you try to rent a vehicle in the Phoenix Valley area, you're like, good luck. Everything goes up because it's just that's where I'm going next week.
There you go.
Not to watch baseball. CFL Free Agency. What's your take there? Any winners, losers? Anything surprising you there?
Well, nothing really surprised me today because it's everything that we knew it was already happening. All the players already announced where they were going. Like, you guys talk about Tommy Stevens. He's like, thanks, Calgary. It's been real. Can't wait to go to Saskatchewan. And
it's the gender reveal that gets screwed up and everyone knows. And then it's like, oh,
right,
surprise.
Right. The move I really liked So, okay, what did Philly teach us this year? Is that defense in a running game can still win you a championship. Their defense is why they won, and Saquon Barkley broke the all-time rushing record. So what did Toronto go out and do? They have as good a running back as there is in the league, not named Brady Oliveira, probably the best running back not named Brady Oliveira, and they re-up Kadeem Carey. So among active running backs, number 1 in career touchdowns. Among all active players, number 3 in career rushing yards, rushed for over 1,000 last year. They're saying to themselves, we can win with this guy carrying the mail. He's got another year left in him. And he was a big part of what they did last year. And he's just going to open things up for Chad Kelly whenever he gets back and that offense. Made a lot of sense that the Argos brought back Arbuckle. He'll probably have to start the season for them. But Kadeem Carey is a good blocker. Kadeem Carey is a good pass catcher. And Kadeem Carey can carry the mail for you. And if you're not going to get your franchise quarterback returning for a while, it's going to take Chad a little while to get going. I thought that was a really smart move by the defending champs.
Since there weren't a lot of surprises in terms of big names out there that weren't already dealt for, what was something, maybe a sneaky move that maybe flew under people's radar that you like?
Yeah, it's a good question. I thought the Ticats adding Liam Dobson to their offensive line, I thought that was a smart one. Like, he was drafted, I want to say 2021, became an all-star last year for the first time. He's only 27 years old. He was in Winnipeg, so he kind of has a little bit of like winning pedigree, championship pedigree, bounced around the NFL a little bit, had a cup of coffee with Chicago and New Orleans. So I think that's obviously Ted Gavaya coming over from Winnipeg as the GM knows him a little bit. You can never have enough guys up front. So again, it's not a sexy name, but here you have a guy 27 years old who's played a lot of football and played a lot of winning football. And I really like that move for the Ticats.
Yeah. And then the Riders today, the one that I didn't know because it wasn't released. So was veteran offensive lineman Philippe Gagnon coming over from Montreal. You just said it. Can never have enough guys up front, especially experienced guys like that. He's been in the league a long time.
The other one, and we talked about this on the show before they signed him. The moment Calgary released Mike Rose, I said to myself, all right, Corey Mace is going to bring him in, right? His former position coach when he was with the Stamps. Everybody I talked to when that move happened said Mike Rose still has good football left in him. So I thought that was a nice move by the Riders too.
One of the names we brought up. Oh.
Sorry, go ahead, Harry.
One of the teams we brought up today that maybe people expected more out of was Edmonton. Still more to come from them, or?
No, I think they've added a lot. I like what they've done over there. They just haven't announced a bunch because Ed Hervey's waiting for all these guys to pass their physicals. Jake Ceresna going over there. There's somebody who can get, right after the quarterback. I expect you're going to hear a bunch of names to Edmonton sooner than later, but they're just not kind of announcing it, so to speak, until it becomes officially official. I thought Edmonton needed to do a bunch, did a bunch. Didn't I? Maybe they just had to get rid of McLeod Bethel Thompson because it wasn't going to work in the quarterback room with Trey Ford. But there's some little things. Keon Julian Grant coming over from Montreal. Here you have a Canadian receiver who's 28 years old. I remember when he was in college at St. FX, that guy could play. I think there's still a good runway for him to get a lot better. So the one that surprised me was Geno Lewis heading to Ottawa. I thought Edmonton would want to keep him, but obviously that didn't happen. I think that's a good sign for the Red Blacks too.
I think that relationship is broken. Okay, we gotta wrap it with Coulson. He's been talking about this for over 48 hours.
Uh-oh.
Well, I just remember, saying that one Philadelphia Eagles would beat the Chiefs back in November. So
I remember that too.
yes. And I also did some research and found back in September on the 4th, when Barney called that Mahomes would not finish the season, that he would get injured and not finish the season. I said the tush push would get banned, and so we're waiting to see if that still happens, I guess. And your call back then was a two-parter. The Jets would be in the Super Bowl, but the part that you got a lot closer right on was that Adams would be traded to the Jets.
There you go.
Yeah, you
Devontae
said a
Adams,
first
yeah.
or a second and a third. It was for a third, so...
Hey, we've all said stupid stuff, Arash.
But
The Jets in
Now-
the Super Bowl.
Now, here is my honest. Like, some people are scared of spiders. I am terrified at the thought that Aaron Rodgers is going to come to Minnesota. Like, if that happens, fellas, it's been real. Nice knowing you. Salut, adios, abiento.
You're
Good
gonna go
night.
take your chances on that island where everyone that goes to gets murdered by all the people that don't live there. I'm out here. As soon as I saw that, I go, oh, I would like to see Arash's reaction to that right now. And they had the purple jersey on and everything.
He is a big
Torture.
Brett Favre fan. He's following in his footsteps.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
All right. Well, we'll let you decompress from that. Have a great night of watching Hoosiers. Let us know
me
what
too.
you find about the arenas, and we'll talk to you Thursday.
All right, see you boys.
Have a good week.
Coast to Coast with Arash Madani for Brian Gawley, Smart Investing Solutions. SJHL report coming up. Clutch Performer coming up. Let's take a quick break. It is the Sports Cage. We are streaming on YouTube and X. SportsCage.com's broken, but you can also hear us on the radio, 620 CKRM.
Count of three.
Clutch Performer time for Nick Service in Emerald Park, your local Massey Ferguson, Challenger, Rogator, Gleaner, and Fent dealer. Call 781-1077. Mine is everybody on the Lanigan Pirates senior hockey team. Every single one that suited up last night. They were the 7th seed. They upset the 2 seed from Wynyard. 5-1 win. They advanced. They now run into the juggernaut that is the Foam Lake squad. And then Watchers plays Drake. So, Clutch Performers, Lanigan Pirates, John Keen's boys, 5-1 win over Wynyard last night. Anyone else got Clutch Performer? Anyone? Anyone in the room? No? Okay, well, and then we can give one to Tommy Stevens. So if you caught that interview, seems like an absolute gem. We'll replay that later. Clutch Performer for Nick Service in Emerald Park, your local Massey Ferguson, Challenger, Rogator, Gleaner, and Fent dealer. Local hockey tonight, we are going to there's only one game in the SJHL, so why don't we bring them on the line for the SJHL report for Southie Mainline Chrysler. It is Benny Walchuk.
Time now for the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League report on the All New SportsCage. The SJHL report is brought to you by Southie Mainline, the Mainline Automotive Group's newest king of trucks. Southie Mainline, just 30 minutes north of Regina. Worth the drive, every time, guaranteed.
Yeah, it's right now at Southie Mainline Chrysler. You can get a Ram truck, Benny, for $49,995, or you can slide into a Jeep Compass for $38,686. Jeep Grand Cherokees, 0% financing. That's like, you might as well walk in with a balaclava. 0% financing. It's a heck of a deal right there. Only one game in the league tonight, Nipawin, LaRange. What do you got, though? What's word around the league? Last weekend, I see what Melville's doing. Melville's sneaky, and that's where you lay your head.
Yeah, they're playing some really good hockey, playing under the radar hockey. not scoring maybe more goals than people thought right now with them losing some guys to the other leagues, but they're manufacturing goals the right way, getting some very good goaltending from Nick Jeanette. So yeah, they're playing very, very sneaky, and they have the longest active winning streak right now at 5 straight games going into a big weekend here this weekend.
Any other teams on the come up?
Well, Melford Mustangs. Melford lost 2 in a row for the first time all season just over a week ago, and now they are winners of 4 straight. So they've rebounded pretty nicely. And then Madden Malacca, who is a young netminder, a prospect of the Regina Pats, he had 4 wins this past week. Had an outstanding week for them to try to get back on track and try to hold off the Flin Flon Bombers. So they're the other team that's back on track. By the Yorkton Terriers won a couple of games to get back on the winning ways as well. So it's a deadlock right now between that. So I know the top 2 seeds, Weyburn Flin Flon and Melford are probably going to be the top 2 seeds, but I think even 3 through 6, 7 right now is still pretty up in the air right now.
If the playoffs started today, what would we be seeing?
We would be seeing a Melford Kindersley, which is all right, but then you have Flin Flon Battlefords, which is a great series. They met in the final a couple of years ago. Weyburn Humboldt. Of course, Weyburn dealt their 20-year-old netminder Dazza Mitchell, Regina product, who played almost 3 years or 4 years with the Red Wings, to Humboldt in a trade. So they've been kind of trading partners the last number of years. So then this is the best one, 4 versus 5, Yorkton versus Melville right now. So that'd be a great series. Yeah. So hopefully the season should just end right now. We should just play like about a 12-game series or 13-game series between these two teams. But yeah,
yes. Summit Series style.
Right now are pretty. Yeah, the matchups right now are pretty juicy. So I know, of course, they met last time in 2014 for the SJHL final, their first year, which is my second year doing games, which is pretty outstanding. So yeah, I wish it was, but we're still got just over a month here of hockey left.
When I was in Melville driving to the rink with the boy the other day, there's a little motel walking distance to that rink. They play each other. You might have to give me the Benny Walchuk rate. Probably a nice continental breakfast there as well. What do we got for worth the drive game of the week in the SJHL this week?
I got a couple. I got Battleford Humboldt. They're playing a home-and-home series this weekend, so I think that's going to be an entertaining showdown. They're battling for top spots in the Nutrient Division. And then Kindersley is going to be down south here in Melville for 2 games on Friday and Saturday here at the CN Community Center. So those are 2 series I'm going to keep an eye on. Of course, Kindersley and Melville are battling for positioning, and of course, Humboldt and Battleford is battling as well. So those are my 2 kind of matchups I would be worth the drive here this weekend.
I was eyeing up that Humboldt Battleford home and home as well. All right, and then let's finish it off with a little bit of senior hockey. How about Daiboja to everybody in Kenora? Big upset in round 1. You could probably hear the cheers from where you are.
I did, yeah. It was for sure. It's still the talk around Yorkton I've been seeing. I know a few guys. I got a couple good buddies on Kenora as well. They just played some really good hockey. Colby Entz, former Melville millionaire and Churchbridge Imperial right now. He was outstanding in between the pipes right now for Kenora. Now it sets up, what are we going to call it, the pierogi ball right now? Foam Lake and Kenora coming up starting on Friday night there at the Foam Lake Recreational Center. So,
Kutia Cup.
Kutia Cup. There you go. Yeah. It's hard to believe. Like, Kenora's a really good team. Foam Lake's really, really good too. So it's all hard to tell what the leagues match up, what the quality of leagues and teams. But Foam Lake's going to be pretty tough there, especially with home ice starting on Friday.
It was nice seeing you on Saturday. What a crowd! Balcarres, Round Lake, and the fort. People were saying that's the most people they've ever seen in that barn.
Yeah, of course, we talked about Keystone Cup. My brother actually won that with the Saskatoon Royals back in 2007. There was a big crowd there, but yeah, it was outstanding just to see. I've never seen a lot more, like even everybody from Newdorf to Yorkton to Regina area, everybody from every parts of Parkland region there were they're in attendance. Some people are missing coaching their kids hockey just to watch the game in Fort Capel. So it was outstanding, and it should be a great game once again on Saturday in No Chapois. It was just a great game all around. The fans were outstanding. There was no shenanigans off the ice or anything like that. So it was just great to watch some great senior hockey. And those are 2 very, very good teams, 2 very hard-hitting teams going at it there on Saturday. Wow.
It was a really good game. And Dan Bacala, never heard of the guy until Saturday, then looked up his hockey DB. That guy kicked because Balcarres was in that game.
Yeah, the first 10 minutes or so of that hockey game, Balcarres scored a couple of goals. You might have put the Round Lake Bears on a little bit of their heels a little bit, but they execute on their chances. The Balcarres goalie maybe wants a couple back, but he played pretty good as well to keep his team in the hockey game too. So it's should be set up a good showdown, and then the winner of that will take on the Wynyard Monarchs, who Wynyard, of course, like you mentioned, they lost to Lanigan and were upset by Lanigan in the playoffs. So I'm sure they're going to be, they have a good team. They got Connor Hobbs. They got a lot of former Jesse Forsberg, Alex Forsberg, a lot of former Western Hockey League players on that team. So should be a showdown either way, whoever will advance on there on Saturday.
Hey, you have the t-shirt. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, right?
Exactly.
That's right. I wish my dad would have told me that when I was younger. Benny, thanks so much, buddy. Are you going to go to the game Saturday? Or no, you're probably doing your other thing. I bet you the 50-50 in OCHAP pushes around 10K. It's my prediction. It'll be nice.
My turn to win this time.
See you, Benny.
See you guys.
That is the SJHL report for Southie Mainline Chrysler, the new king of trucks in Southie, Saskatchewan. Worth the drive every time. Guaranteed. Let's take a break. It is the Sports Cage. SportsCage.com is broken. Go to YouTube if you want to see our mugs, or Twitter. It's back. Well, the boys fixed it. Is that all I had to do was complain? I literally complained for 8 minutes, and you guys got it back.
Anything for you, Barney.
Yes. Sports Cage. Let's take a break. The Sports Cage. Dave Thomas's favorite program at 620 CKRM. Just heard that little clip there. Free fishing weekend this weekend.
Yes.
Little known fact, I have never, ever ice fished.
Ditto.
Man, people just, they're like, what a couple of rubes.
It is cold.
And I have no plans to start.
It is cold, Colson, but have you seen some of the ice fishing shacks that people have?
Oh, yeah, but that's not ice fishing. That's glamping for ice fishing. Like, no.
I'm not going to just take a milk crate out in some lake, drill a hole, and sit out there in the elements like a buffoon.
Like, you can take a milk crate if you want, but like, a camping chair is at least an improvement still. Because that's how I was introduced to it, with no tent, no anything. So...
Yeah, and then you see the fish, and then it's like, oh, there it is, and it bit my.
I still haven't done it very many times. I'm talking like an expert over here, but no, I've done it 2 or 3 times. It's not that much different from fishing outside of you don't have to move around the lake because you're just sitting on it with a hole in it. So
now regular fishing, I've done, and I don't mind, even though I don't really eat fish. But now that the boy is like so into fishing, last year, like get to the cabin, to the breakwater, boom, not even help unload anything, like just gonzo. And then brother-in-law bought me a new fishing rod for Christmas, so him and I can go fishing. So I guess, and he's got my old tackle box. All I know is I have a deadly Len Thompson 5 of diamonds, and then the red and white one, whatever that fishing lure is called. So that is your fishing update.
The problem with fishing is that it takes time away from golfing.
Touche.
So I'm going to go golf instead. You go fish. I'll see you afterwards.
Yeah, that's a golf's winning for me any day of the week on that.
Yeah.
At the Canadian Brew House, Talk About Tuesdays. That's Taco Bout Tuesdays. They got the taco specials across the board. Tankards of Coronas, spicy mango margaritas. Go and get blitzed if you're having a bad day. Shots of Jose Cuervo, $5.99. Buckets of Corona, $23.99. Canadian Brew House, 2 locations in Regina, 1 in Moose Jaw. Okay, so 4 Nations face-off opens up tomorrow in Montreal, Sweden, and Canada. With Eric Francis yesterday, and for a guy that had a media pass to the event, you think I would have known this. There's no playoffs. It's just a round robin. And so you cannot stumble at all. They lose tomorrow. Canada loses tomorrow against the Swedes, and you're really behind the 8 ball. What do you think about this tournament going in?
It's interesting. I'll watch. Where it's different is that it's a mid-season tournament, right? Like World Cup of Hockey was in August, right? So that's totally different. So where they have it, I don't mind them replacing the All-Star game with it. I think that's fine. I think the All-Star game and the skills and all that has kind of run its course. So shake it up, do something a little different. I miss the fact that Russia's not going to be there. So I feel like you're eliminating a very large portion of very skilled players, the best players that you've got, by them not being there. So I don't know. I will see. Do I think Canada's the best team there? No. It'll be interesting to see how. I'm very curious about the compete factor. I think that's my X factor.
I don't know.
How much do these guys care?
So Eric Francis talked yesterday about, I asked him, like, what do these guys get? And he's like, well, there'll be some trophy and gold medals. The picture of the trophy came out today.
Looks like the Grey Cup, kind of.
Do we have the picture of that? And then also, then the Team Finland picture. Yeah, it looks like the Grey Cup, you said?
Kinda. The cup's a little longer, but it's a very familiar looking trophy. It's not like that World Cup one that they did with looked like the fiberglass 3-cylinder thing that was awful.
That's what I was trying to figure out, where that trophy came from in my brain. That was the
World Cup.
So
the 96 one.
That they, for me and Prairie Land Rentals text line 936-6262. What are you thinking about the Four Nations face-off? Are you excited for it? I think everybody that's a hockey fan will probably watch tomorrow, unless you got something going on or ice fishing. But for me, I'm in. I think it's going, that Canada-US game on Saturday, I really hope it gets greasy, because and then I would like to know what other people think, and especially you. It's really weird. My Canadian hockey memories, like a lot of people, it's World Juniors. Like, 89 or 91, whenever Slaney scored in Saskatoon, probably World Junior wise, that is the one that's like embedded in my head. The Olympics, which we can't run any Olympic stuff on here or we'll get banned, is obviously, like, Nagano was historic, and then how it ended was awful.
Yeah. Yes.
But then Salt Lake, like, that was the redemption tour. Then followed in to Vancouver. No, Salt Lake, and then Vancouver. No, there was something. There was a bat. Was there Italy? Somewhere in between there, Turin, which was weird. But when the U.S. beat us in 1996 in that World Cup of Hockey that was in August, I was living in the States, right? So I was in the hard minority, and I was like, yeah, my little Canada kicks ass shirt, and I was like, and then, man, was that gross. We're showing some of the highlights on the stream. It was gross hockey. I don't know if you can rewind it to the first minute and a half of this. The first part of game 3, there was 2 fights in the first minute and a half. And these were NHLers that are going, remember the Claude Lemieux, Harry, and Keith Tkachuk fight?
Yep.
It's like, who would have thought Claude Lemieux was going to fight? Like, Lindros out there, the Hatchers, on the other, like, just massive hits. If you're watching the stream, this is the right here. Tkachuk pushes, and then Claude Lemieux pushes Tkachuk. Then they're going to end up going Lindros and Guerin, and then Keith Primo decides to drop the gloves. Like, so for you, when you Canada hockey memories, and what jumps out for you?
Yeah, I mean, everything you mentioned. It's funny, we talked about it a few weeks back, where I'm not very good at recall in terms of where was I when things happened. I remember the 96 World Cup of Hockey. I was in Calgary going to school, and I remember it being a big deal. And for me, just as a hockey fan, I think it was the real signal to change in the game of hockey, where The Americans were playing the Canadian style of hockey, and the rest of the world caught up to Canada in 1996, in my opinion, from my knowledge as a hockey fan. I think everybody sat back and were like, wait a second, we're not as dominant as we thought we were heading into this. And I think that 96 was a real wake-up call for all Canadian hockey fans. But Olympics, too. Nagano, yes. Salt Lake, huge. Also remember watching the game, the gold medal game. I'll never forget the pass at the blue line, letting go through the legs, like just the heads up play. Like it was amazing. Like it's burned into my memory banks. And the off ice moment, Gretzky's speech in Salt Lake City, I'll never forget it. It's one of the greatest press conferences I've ever seen. I could watch it every day. And it was kind of that signaling back. We're Canada, God damn it. And this is our game. And it was kind of like that 6 years of us being like, oh, maybe we're not as good as we thought we are, to Wayne standing up and being like, you're goddamn right, we're as good as we are, and we're going to prove it to everybody. And then them doing it was amazing. I get goosebumps just thinking about it, talking about it.
I forgot about that speech and that press conference. Yeah, that was so good. And then it was, I forget who passed it, but it goes through Lemieux's legs to Sakic.
Yeah, again, I think lets it go. Doesn't he?
Yeah, passes it maybe, yeah. And
Mario lets it go through his legs.
Sakic and Mike Richter, who was unbelievable in 96 in the World Cup of Hockey. Mike Richter was so far out of his net. And then Bob Cole, surely that's gotta be it.
Yeah.
And you and I weren't big amazing. Bob Cole. You and I weren't big Bob Cole fans. Like, I get it, iconic voice and all that, but the actual calling of the game wasn't fantastic after Nagano. Like,
especially at the end,
like the one year that I remember was Toronto was in the playoffs, and he kept calling Todd Gill Hal Gill. And then it was Brad Ferentz and Andrew Ferentz, and it was, but and then Canada, like 87. So I'm like 10 years old.
Yeah.
That is, do you have that one, Curtis? So let's play that 87 Canada Cup, the face-off. Do you have the audio up? Can we do the audio or no? Keep playing it. Watch this. If you're watching the stream, watch this replay. Watch the hook by Howard Chuck. It is awesome. It's a blatant penalty.
It's a tug. It's definitely a tug.
Come on, it's coming up here right away. If you're on the radio, Lemieux's got his hands up. They're showing they're coming up the ice. There's four of them, and Dale Howard Chuck, a blatant hook where the Russian that would be probably the guy to take away Mario is hooked and falls down. Mario shoots on what would be the equivalent of a street hockey goalie now, picks the top corner, and it's over. I remember that, though. And then the thing about this that I remember, because I'm weird, is I could never figure out why it felt like every single big Canadian hockey game was in Copps Coliseum, but they didn't have an NHL team.
Yeah, there was a lot of games played there, that's for sure. But I mean, even that one I wouldn't put that on my list. It's an iconic moment, but I was young, wasn't as huge. But the Nagano and the 96 World Cup and those things stand out way more in my memory banks.
And then I rewatched on a bus a little while ago was Pat Blues, Jamie Haroff, shout out. He brought the Vancouver gold medal game. He had the DVD. So we watched it, and it's all the kids are on their phones, and they're kind of like, they don't get how good of a hockey game that was. And it was Ryan Miller, and man, it was It was so good. So yeah, if you got any memories, Canadian hockey, going back, Prairie Land Rentals text line 936-6262. Another hour in the books. When we come back, we will talk to Glenn Suter on CFL Free Agency. It is a Sports Cage. We're back streaming at sportscage.com and on 620 CKRM. Welcome back to the Sports Cage. Shink, Harry, Coulson, Curtis. It's been a busy program so far. I know a lot of you are driving home, getting off work, driving. How the last hour is going to go, we're going to bring in Glenn Suter in a bit for press coverage. And then we are going to rerun Tommy Stevens, new Rider quarterback who we talked to in hour one. We'll rerun that and also rerun Justin Dunk from hour one on CFL Free Agency Day. And Harry, I got to say, the Prairie Land Rentals text line, Canada 87, Canada, Russia, also 72 Summit Series. And I knew some people were going to message in on that. Who's one here? Lauren is one of the guys that messaged in, Craig, Tom. But I would love to watch that front to back. I think there was a series out there that I briefly watched. I should watch it again because, yeah, that was some of the best hockey ever played, and it was just so the unknown.
Yeah, it's like the big red machine that really nobody knew anything about, and just players that you never heard of or seen of, and it was just such an unproven thing. It was just nobody knew what to expect from it, and it was like Thunderdome, like all bets were off. There was no quarter asked and none given. It was cutthroat.
And I'd like to the question I would like to ask is who decided on 8 games? Like, I guess, was it 4 and 4? But what would have happened if it would have stayed? Was there, and there must have been like some sort of like senior hockey or provincial minor hockey mini game? I don't know. But the Russians spanked Canada in game 1, 7-3. And then they were all like, whoa. And then Canada came back 4-1. Then it was a 4-4 tie again. Tie?
Yeah.
But yeah, if you were around and got to watch that in 72, like Lauren and some of these other people who messaged in, that was good times. That was our Canada Cup. That was our Olympics, I guess, right?
Yep.
Maybe our next guest remembers it as well. It's press coverage time with Glenn Suter for Bronco Plumbing and Heating, where professional service is guaranteed. They'll treat you right at 781-2090. Call Bronco Plumbing and Heating. Hopefully your furnace isn't breaking down in this weather. Oh, I don't know what it's like in the left coast there this week, Glenn, but we are in a deep freeze here in Saskatchewan. Do you remember what Canada hockey, like what do you remember any, like the Olympics, obviously in Vancouver, you're probably out there hooting and hollering.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean the Olympics and my former partner and still great friend, Chris Cuthbert's call of the winning goal, just money from the booth. Not totally expected it because he's such a pro. I remember Nagano too, though. And I remember making the comparison from the booth when in the Grey Cup, Dave Dickinson was the starting quarterback for the BC Lions, and they had Casey Printers. Remember Casey Printers?
Oh yeah.
So Casey Printers comes off the bench early that season and is a phenom. He has a phenom year, like just this off the hook, 6,000 yards, that type of year, and could run around all over the gym. It was just this magnificent year. Dickinson comes back and plays in the Grey Cup when he wasn't completely healthy. Now, no shot at Dave Dickinson. He still reminds me that I've said this on the air, by the way. Like, we'll have a conference call and he goes, yeah, well, I guess Printers should have played that game or whatever. So, but I thought they should have played Printers. Printers was the MVP of the league, and the BC Lions lost the Grey Cup. I compared that coaching decision by by the GOAT, by the way, Wally Buono, who's the best coach of all time.
Gretzky shootout.
Yes. I compared the coaching decision between those two events, that in Nagano with Gretzky sitting on the bench. I don't care if he wasn't great in breakaways, or that is overthinking it. This is the best player in the world. He has got to shoot. He's got to shoot just so everybody else takes notice. The goalie gets a little yips. Who knows? But Ray Bourque shooting and Gretzky not shooting, I was like, and Mark Crawford was at the same club that my son played hockey at and I coached at. And believe me, we have had a few beverages and discussed this.
Nice. It's funny because I think Harry was it Shanahan who shot last, and then Bob Cole's like, he's got to score. He's got it. No. That was it. And we were all just like, no. Like, what? So funny story about that, Glenn, while we're here, is when we interviewed Theo Fleury on our podcast like years ago, he talked about being there, and all of a sudden they were like, okay, well, it's a shootout. And the guys on the bench were like, what? Say that again. It's like, yeah. And then so they're figuring out the shooters. I think Theo shot. Can you get the 5 shooters for Canada at Nagano, Colson, quickly? Sorry. But the other thing he said was that was long before some genius came up with the let's clear the ice before a shootout with the Zambonis. And he talked about how bad the ice was. And you were like, oh, maybe you have a deke that you always go to. And then when we interviewed Eric Lindros, I asked him about that too. And he said that ice was so bad, it was like playing in a bad outdoor shinny rink. But yeah, the Gretzky thing, that's one that'll live forever, right? It was
well, and the question too, Barney, is who made the decision? Because Mark Crawford and I have talked about it before, and I never really got a clear picture after the kind of conversation we had. Was it Bobby Clarke? Because he was kind of the manager of that team, right? Like he was the guy who put it together. And then didn't he, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm going off memory, but didn't he make Lindros his captain of that Team Canada? You have Wayne Gretzky on the bench, and I think he made Eric Lindros the captain, right? Or they decided that he would be the captain.
I'm looking at the picture right now. Eric Lindros is the captain.
Yeah.
Of that
and
team.
again, like all due respect to Eric Lindros and his career and him as a player at that time, but you have the greatest player in the world and maybe of all time in the world, and he's not your captain and he doesn't shoot in the playoffs or in the shootout. Like, I don't know. I've always wondered how much coaches really can influence a hockey game when the lines are just rolling and the power play and all that. But there's an example of how important coaching is in hockey as well.
Yeah. Oh man, we could sit here and talk about that for a long time. We have him coming up later in in hour 3 here again from hour 1. Tommy Stevens joined us on the program. What a guy. Seems, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to interview him, Glenn. Harry and I talked to him. Like, what a good dude. He'll be a fan favorite here.
Yeah, he will. He will. And, here's a quick story. When Dustin Nielsen and I were in the booth and we were picking, I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, we were picking our best short yardage quarterback. Who would be your fantasy league short yardage quarterback? And I picked Tommy Stevens, and he goes, oh, you can't have first pick, blah, blah, blah. We had a fight about that. But Tommy Stevens heard us talking about him and went on social media and said something about, because I'm not sure if we said he's not a starter yet or something. I can't remember why he was upset, but he went on social media and actually reached out to both and commented on Dustin and I talking about him. And I thought, this guy is a ton of fun. Like, hey, this guy is going to be great for the locker room. And he's a bull. Like, he's an absolute bull. If you're watching the stream right now, man, you get a great example of what he's capable in short yardage.
And And people can listen to it later. He talks about how he's the smallest one at the dinner table in the Stevens household when they're all eating. So he comes from a big family. Anything today in free agency, Glenn? And I've asked a few guys this. Any of the signings that I guess everything was kind of what we expected. There's a few here and there. Anything stand out to you?
Yeah, the one that does big time is Jeremiah Masoli in Vancouver. Nathan Rourke is obviously the starter in Vancouver, but after that, they're pretty young. And to bring in Jeremiah Masoli, who I think has still got a ton of football left in him, is a major move for the Lions. I mean, anytime that Nathan might get nicked, might have to miss a couple games, the best of them have, and he has too back in 22. You got a starter. It's kind of like when the Riders got Jake Maier. When they signed Jake Maier, they got their insurance policy there of a guy who's proven that he can win.
Sorry, Harry, I thought you were going to go.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah, and after talking to Tommy Stevens, though, I'm like, hey, this guy wants a chance to sling it around the yard as well.
Yep.
And the thing is, we found out last year, can never have enough offensive linemen that are, especially experienced offensive linemen. So Philippe Gagnon, the Riders pick up for Montreal. Yeah, what do you know about him? He's been around the league a long time.
Yeah, excellent. And that was sort of the Peter Godber, with Gagnon, you got a guy who is proven veteran offensive lineman. And before we came on today, I looked at the offensive line on the website for the Riders and just sort of looked down there. There's a couple of guys still out there in free agency, like Isaiah Cage, but you don't want to overspend for an American O-lineman when I think you can, as long as you have in your top 8 or 9, as long as you have, what you think you can win with, and then you're bringing in young guys to develop them and get them to learn the nuances. So I think, there's a couple of guys still out there. I thought Habbo was a big signing. I think Tyrell Ford was one of the biggest in free agency when he went to Edmonton from the Bombers. The Bombers have lost a few players now. And, they're not going to have Big Hill back. I know Rider fans are always kind of looking just to the province over next to them saying, what are the Bombers doing? And that's the team to beat until they're not. So they're going to have an interesting training camp and preseason. I'm going to be like, what is this team going to look like? They lost some people. Kenny Lawler was another one.
They're definitely going to have a mixer just to reintroduce everybody. All the new faces are going to have "Hello, my name is" stickers on.
Yes. I've been in locker rooms like that where you're, you walk in and halfway through the season you're trying to introduce yourself to. Well, in fact, I've done it in the huddle. We get out on the field and we're in the huddle in a game, and I go, oh, you're a new halfback. I'm Glenn. I'm the safety.
Yeah. I don't know you, and I don't know you either.
Yeah. I know you. You taught my wife scuba diving in the Cayman Islands. I talked to you after the game, Glenn. No, but
I know we got to go quickly, guys. But what about the Super Bowl? Like, Barney, first of all, how much money did you win? Secondly,
I never say.
Okay, well, I know you won because we both took the Eagles going in last week. I remember that. And I only did it because, and I never make picks, especially not in Canadian games, but I only did it because I've been burned by great defenses. Defenses in the NFL in the championship game seem to be the difference maker. I don't think you can say the same thing about CFL football. I think so many things can happen because there's so many different possessions and the rules sort of allow for that. But you get down 2 or 3 scores in the NFL, like in the Super Bowl at halftime, it's pretty much game over. I got to mention this because broadcasting is so subjective. I mean, both Harry and Barney, you guys could discuss what Dustin and I do or Rod Smith and I do in the booth, and you could both be in completely different planets, like with different ideas. And I like this. I don't like when he says that. It's very subjective. But I thought, and I don't know about you guys, but I thought the booth was calling the game from Kansas City's perspective. It was when Patrick Mahomes got sacked 3 times in the first half and had 20 yards of offense, it was Patrick Mahomes is not comfortable. It was the offensive line is playing terrible. They're having a real rough time with it. He's got to get the ball out of his hands. And what I mean by that, and again, very subjective, and sometimes the broadcast booth is trying to prop up the team that's behind in order to hold viewers. There's a little behind the curtain that we definitely try to do. You know, like you're trying to hold viewers, you're trying to keep them interested. You don't want to make stuff up, which I think at times happened in the Super Bowl. They were down 5 scores and they were still going, you know, if Kansas City, and I went, you guys, come on, it's over. It is over. The fourth quarter it's an over quarter. But I found it interesting, not right or wrong, just different, that Tom Brady in the booth called this Super Bowl championship from Kansas City's perspective.
Were you surprised, as a guy that's been around football a lot, and you know, we talked about so much on Kansas City's coaching staff and how smart they were, and you know, they are probably Hall of Famers, and like they're fantastic, and part of the reason they got there, winning those close games this year. Yep. You know, the blitz against Buffalo off the edge from Spagnuolo. They, at halftime, which is the longest halftime you're going to get because there's the performances, they come out and there seemed to be no change in game plan from the Chiefs or any tweaks or surprises. It was like, okay, now let's get back out there and get our faces smashed in even more.
Yeah, but I would just move it up. I was more surprised that there wasn't adjustments made after the first quarter, not after halftime. After halftime, what was the score? They were down, I think, by 3 possessions, right? At halftime. I'm pretty sure it was 3 possessions. At that point in the NFL, you're thinking, how many possessions are we going to realistically have in the second half? Probably not many. We're down by 3, so we need 4 possessions with majors to win. So we got to go out and sling it and just try to make those intermediate plays, even though our quarterback does not have the time to do it. The adjustments, to me, should have been made in the first quarter when they knew they were having troubles up front with the front 4 for the Eagles, and the Eagles weren't blitzing, by the way. In fact,
they didn't blitz once. They didn't blitz once.
Nope. Was it? Okay, yeah, I didn't see the final stats on it, but I know when I was tracking it in the first 3 quarters, I thought they're going with a 4-man pressure every single time, and they are causing nothing but havoc. So when that happens, the adjustment is run game, first of all, so that those defensive linemen have to pause on the line of scrimmage to play their run gap responsibility. And then from there, you go to screen draw. Quick screens outside, try to make one guy miss, draw on screens to your tailback, those kind of things to slow that pass rush down. There was no adjustments made after the first quarter in that. And then when they got to halftime in the third quarter, now they're down by 4 scores, and they're like, we got to throw a bomb every play to see if we can come back here. But it was game over, which is, by the way, something the booth never said. And I understand it because I've been there. A blowout is the toughest game to call. That's when people ask me about biased, guys, I always say I'm not biased for one team or another. Honestly, I'm not. I'm biased that we have a great game. That's what I'm biased about. If we don't have a great back and forth game, it's bad for TV ratings. It's simple as that. So when I was listening, thinking, okay, guys, at some point here in the fourth quarter, you got to say this baby's done.
It's cooked, as the kids say. It's cooked. Okay, so we get to catch up with you again on Thursday, and then next next week. We'll talk about it on Thursday, your big vacation and your big trip. It's pretty exciting. Always a pleasure,
Great.
Glenn. Have a good one. We'll talk to you in a couple days.
Sounds good, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Have a good
press
week.
coverage with Glenn Suter. It's for Bronco Plumbing and Heating. Professional service is guaranteed. They'll treat you right. 781-2090. Quick break. Harry and I'll be back. I'm going to go through the shooters of that 1998. We got him. We got him here. It's the Sports Cage, streaming at sportscage.com. Tacos Tuesday at Canadian Brew House. You get the $3.49, the OGs, the beef, the chicken, donair tacos, margaritas, tankards of Corona. It's all at both Canadian Brew Houses in Regina or in Moose Jaw. Okay, so Harry, we go back to the hockey talk here. 1998, Nagano. Did you remember the shooter? I totally forgot Joe Nieuwendyk shot.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that nobody talks about anymore, but he was an upper echelon when he played, that's for sure.
Yeah, he was fast. He was a great skater. So it went for Canada. I think Canada shot first. Fleury?
Yes.
Fleury shot first, missed. Robert Reichel went down, beat Patrick Waugh, scores. Ray Bourque, everyone was like, huh? Ray Bourque, he hits targets so well in the All-Star game, let's let him shoot on crap ice. Ray Bourque missed. Martin Ruchinski missed. Joe Nieuwendyk missed. Pavel Patera missed. Lindros. And then Lindros made a great move. Like, he had him beat. That was Dominic Hasek. He missed. Yager missed. Then Brendan Shanahan was our last hope. And Shanahan, Nieuwendyk, and Bourque. Like, even some people would say Fleury. Fleury was a gamer, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, he watched
It's funny because you could put that indelible image is Gretzky sitting on the bench, right? You could put that on like a $10 bill because people will never forget that shot of him, the side profile of him just sitting, staring, being like, what just happened? I can't believe we're done.
Yeah. You don't even get to play for any medal.
Yeah.
It's on the bird back home.
Oh, they played for the bronze. They played for the bronze and then they lost.
They lost to Finland?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Tomorrow, Canada plays.
At that point, it was like,
who
we
cares,
don't even care. Yeah. Yeah.
Canada plays Sweden tomorrow, Four Nations Cup. If you're just tuning in, how we're going to do the last part of the show here is we are going to replay the interview with new Saskatchewan Rough Rider quarterback Tommy Stevens from hour 1. And we're going to take a break, and then we're also going to come back and play Justin Dunk, 3 Down Nation, our pre- and post-game hosts' thoughts on free agency today. It was a jam-packed show, Harry. It's fast and furious. Predictions tomorrow night.
I'm no good at predictions. I'm going to predict an upset. I'm going to predict Sweden. Sweden wins. 1-goal game.
Sweden wins. 1-goal game.
Sweden wins in a 1-goal game.
I'm saying Canada wins.
3-2.
Canada wins by 3. Get the book out, Colson. So we got football talk coming up for you, Harry. Always a pleasure. Thanks, buddy. CNC, do your thing. Football talk coming up last half hour of the Sports Cage, streaming sportscage.com and on the home of the Riders, 620 CKRM.